Hello and welcome to the first video on the Zoom MS-70CDR effects. And this video is focused only on synthesizers and instruments, not on the guitar. Now it looks like a guitar effects pedal, and I do play guitar, but I use this pedal exclusively as my effects loop in my mixer for synthesizers. So this video is only for synthesizers because setting this up for guitar would probably be completely different. So let's get started. There's two ways to hook the Zoom up. One is you have two inputs, two outputs. Left and right stereo, left and right stereo. You can hook this directly up to your synthesizer in stereo. If you have a stereo synthesizer, it can go right through. Or you can hook it up to a mono synthesizer and use the mono left input and bring it through to a stereo output. Now, because we're going to be focusing on synths today and mostly recording, I'm not going to, again, a live stage use would be different. So we're focusing on synths and we're focusing on recording. So you definitely want a stereo output to your recorder. Now I highly suggest not directly inputting into the Zoom. As you see, I got a mixer over here, and not all mixers, but most mixers. This is the Mackie VLZ. This thing's been around for they've been making VLZ for 30 years. And this has a auxiliary on it. And the auxiliary is a mono send. So if you send, and it has a 1/4 inch jack to send out a mono signal. So from my mixer, I am sending out my auxiliary into the mono signal, or the mono side of the Zoom. Then I'm taking the stereo side and bring it back in to what's called the stereo returns, which is the auxiliary returns of the mixer. And that's how we're going to configure it today, and I highly suggest that because as you control how much, you can get to control how much effects you want through this one knob when you're finished. You can have just a little bit of effects, you can have the full amount of effects that we have designed on here, or you can actually go overload on this and actually overload it. Which I never do. So we're using the Zoom multi-effects in what's called the auxiliary loop or effects loop of the mixer. And the reason we do this is because if I bring this up to the halfway point, I still got half of my analog signal coming through the mixer. It is untouched. We are only adding effects as almost like a sidechain, even though it's being mixed in with a stereo mix. As we add effects, we still have almost the full amount of the analog signal coming through. And that's why it's so important to run effects through a mixer with a send and return. So if you haven't bought a mixer yet, make sure you're getting your mixer with a send and return, and it has to have stereo returns. Again, we're dealing with recording today, and if you don't have a stereo image, you don't have anything. The recording is going to sound flat, it's going to sound terrible. So we have a stereo mixer, we have a mono output from the mixer, but because we have stereo effects on the CDR here, we're going stereo out. And that's the way this all these video series are going to continue. This is just the first in a long series of videos on this Zoom, and this is going to be the configuration throughout. Okay, let's get to it. Now we're going to be focused in on the Zoom for the rest of the tutorial and the rest of the tutorials after this one. Now there's a lot of confusion with this pedal. I researched it for a couple of years, and all I could do is hear people that loved it, hated it, didn't care about it. I think the problem is, if you're using it for guitar, using it for synthesizer, using it for recording, using it for live use, it gets confusing. So we're going to be very specific, as I said before. This is for synthesizers only, and it's for recording only. So let's. This is not going to be a preset thing, because the presets in here are very disappointing for the synthesist, and that's what this video is about. We have a very powerful effects device, and if you design your own effects, just like you design your own sounds on a synthesizer, you're going to be very pleased with this. If you need presets and you don't want to mess with any of that, this video isn't probably for you unless you want to learn how. A lot of people just want presets. They just want to push a button and go. And there's probably effects out there that will do that a little better for you. This one is going to be a design. We are designing effects, just like you design on the synthesizer. But to get started, let's take a listen to this effects that small chain I just did. And it is a stereo delay, which is a beautiful delay because you can control the feedback between the left and right channels. So it's a nice stereo delay. And on top of that, we've got a plate reverb that I custom designed for this sound. So let me get the sound going. We'll start it off dry and then go from there. Okay, let's bring in some effects. And that was the dry versus the effects. Now the effects on this one I didn't overdo. I mean, there are effects in here that are very long, but the effects have to be matched to the speed or the type of what we're playing here. Now I did a small 8-measure phrase here that includes very sharp synthesizer, very quick attack synthesizer, and then a very slow attack, and they're both together. So let's listen to it. Let's listen to this same effect with just the fast attacks lead synth going here. I'm going to start without the effects and then slowly bring them in about halfway through. Okay, and now let's listen to the slower attack synth that was on there before. Again, I'll start dry and then bring the effects in halfway through. Now, because there was a slow attack on there, it's harder to hear the subtle types of effects that we put in here. So let's go through the navigation on this first, now that we've had a little listen to it. We have a number of buttons here, and it doesn't go very deep. So understanding this zoom is really quite simple once you understand how the buttons function. The first button you should realize is the middle one. As you can see above we have little icons, and that's the menu icon. This is a page icon, and this is the save and delete icon. If I push, now the buttons can turn and you can actually push on them. So if I push on this, we get to the menu. And this is the place where you can audition different effects. And you don't have to engage the effect as you go through. You can hear the effects as it goes through. So you don't have to engage them, but to actually work on them, you would have to engage by pushing down. So you would you scroll through, you pick the one you want. So if I wanted this vibe, I would press this, and now we get to figure out what's in here. Now the effects chain works in series only, so it's from right to left, the opposite as you would read. The side buttons here control, as I keep pushing this, that's the first effect as I go right. This is right, left. As I go right, this is the first effect in the chain, and the chain goes this way. So we use this pedal to see what's next in the chain. There's the second one. There's a third one. And then you can see it doesn't go any farther. So there's 3 effects in the chain, and you control that, or you look at that by these here. Now if you want to edit the effect, simply turn these, you can see the little knobs up here. There's 3 knobs. As I turn this first one just a little bit, it immediately goes into the edit screen. So now this knob controls that, and that. So you make your edits, and as you can see there's a little tab up here that says 1 and 2. This button will tab you to the next page. Some of these have 3 pages. I haven't seen 4 yet, but there's 1, 2, or 3 pages. The switches still work with the knobs. By rotating the knob back and forth, you can turn those on and off. And of course, by rotating this knob, you can change this. Now, when I exit, any edits I make are automatically saved. There is no saving on this thing. Whatever you do, and when by the time you exit, everything's saved. Now, in a manual, you can find a way to turn that off. So if you don't like that type of architecture for working, you can turn that off and have a separate save. But from the factory it comes default with a save. So everything if you spent 15 minutes screwing around with this thing, trying to find a perfect reverb for the perfect sound, and then you forgot to save it, you'd be kicking yourself. But you can't go wrong the way it's set up from the factory. This button here is the menu button, which lets you do the saves and everything else. So now we've seen what these buttons do and what the rotary pots do, and we've seen what the left and right buttons do, and we have 3 buttons left. We have the top button, the bottom button, and the center button. Now the center button simply turns on or off the effect. Now there's, as we've seen, there's 3 effects in this chain. So maybe I like everything in here but this third ambience reverb. I can turn just that one off and then watch the red light. It goes out when I turn it off, but it goes back on for that one because it's turned on. So even though you may have 3 or 4 effects in the chain, at any time you can turn them off. And of course, by the time you go to the next effects, whatever's turned off will be automatically saved again. That's the center button. Also, for analog synth people that want to tune, take the center button, hold it down, and now we got a tune. Obviously this always been detuned, and you can see it as the detuning on it. And then click again to release. Okay, so we've seen the three knobs, the three buttons for the knobs. We've seen the right and left and the center. Now what's these top two for? Okay, say I want to add another effect on the left side. Now signal flow is this way, so the signal is going through there. Now if I wanted to do it before it, I would go here and insert a new effect. But to insert a new effect, hold down one of these left-right keys until you get your little menu. Now you can pick out a sub-menu and let's say we're going to put one of these dynamic filters on it. So I select that, push the big button, and now we've just added a compressor to our chain. And you see how it came before that. That's 3 and that's 4. That was 3. Now if I was on the last effects in the chain, it would have put it on the other side. But because I backed off one, it's here. Now at any time you can move these effects. Let's go back to the menu, effects chain, enter it, and now you see the little magnet above will pick up that, and I can use the knob here to set it down anywhere in the chain that I want. So we're looking at the 4 effects chain. So let's take the ambience and move that over and put it down there. Now the compressor is after everything. And exit. Exit. Now when we look at the effects chain, now it's number 4 instead of number 3. And the order that you put these in makes a huge difference on the kind of effects sound you're going to get. Putting a delay before a reverb and putting a delay after a reverb makes quite a bit of difference. So let's go back to the menu and see what's in here. Here is the delete key. It deletes one effect at a time, which is kind of strange. I have not found a way to delete the entire preset. If we go to a preset that I want to delete, like this stairway thing, if I want to delete that preset, you really can't. As you can see, all I can do is store it. So we go back here, we select it, and whenever you select it to be active, of course you get this different display of all the effects. Now this effect happens to have 5 different different effects in it. So if I wanted to delete this back, it's select, are you sure? Yes. Do it again. Again. And again for 4 effects. Okay, now after deleting those, what's my effects chain? That's 1 and 1. So you can see it won't go any farther. So now, whenever you see this through type, that is indicating that there's absolutely no effects on there. No effects at all. So what I've done is I've taken that no effects because it's as a template, and I put my no effects on 1 and called it through. So my number 1 effect is no effect. That way we can start off and make a nice new effect without messing with the chain. It gets confusing when you have to edit an effect. Now if there's just a slight change you want to make for a chain that they've already got and you're happy with it, that's fine. But most of the time, if you're like me, you're going to be building your effects to match the synth tone that you're making. So let's start with our through number 1. I select that through. Now the first thing I want to do is I don't want to lose that. So I'm going to go here to and this is the save page. When you're on the effect that you want, you press this. Now, see underneath it says store to. It says store to 1. That would overwrite it. But you can store that anywhere you want. And I'm going to store that over this stairway one. And I'm going to call it my new effect for the day, which is going to be, and like many of these writers, you have one knob that controls what letter, far right controls which letter it is, and the middle one controls where it goes. So we're going to call this through T for test. And as you can see, it's on 09, where before the original one is on 1, and that's untouched because while there I pushed the save button and then used this middle button to send it where I wanted it to go. So now we can move up to the new through with the little T on it, and now I have an empty slot to make my new effects. So let's make a simple delay and analog, or a delay and reverb effect for our dry signal here. So the first thing we want to do is hold down one of the right left buttons down here to get the mini selection menu here, and we're going to start with delay. Push the center button. Now we get the first delay choice. Now by using the up-down arrows, or the up-down buttons here, we can, by going up, you go through all the delay choices that are in this machine. And let's keep this, I wanted to keep it simple, but I think we'll go ahead and use that stereo delay. Now this is the effect I want, so I push the button here, and now this is in my chain. So if I try to go to the right, to the beginning of the chain, or to the left, all we have is the through. So basically we only have one effect, and it is already on. Now you can, if you're really good at this, you can do the effects without it running, but you may want to create a little sequence to use while you're doing the effect. So we have this up. Now all I have to do is turn this knob once to go into the edit menu now. So it's kind of confusing when you look at this thing and you go, well, where's the edit? You know, where's the button for the edit? And it just turn any one of these knobs, not push, but turn, and immediately takes you into the edit. So now these knobs control what's on the screen, and you can see we got 3 tabs this time. So now we can affect the time level between the right and left. So if you want a nice stereo effect, the right and the left need to be at different times, like they are here. We have the mix, which is basically the intensity. Now we use this knob. See, under there's page, edit, and in this case it's tempo. These under here will change according to what page we're on. But page, all I do is turn this, press this to go to the next page. See how I went to the next page? And the easiest way to go back to the other page is to go out and just push it again. So it's just page 1, page 3, 2 presses, and I'm back to page 1. Now we go to page 2, and now we got our feedback, and you notice the feedback's different on the left feedback, right feedback, and then the level. Page 3, again we got a switch that we can rotate the knob to turn on and off, and then we have the levels of the right and the left. So as I turn down the levels, we got a dry signal now on the left. So that's now we got a right dry signal. And this is the time delay in milliseconds. So we got more time delay on the right channel than on the left channel, and the feedback is higher on the left channel than on the right. So there's more. As you turn feedback up, you get repeated delays. And exit. And now, again, we go. Well, as I go right, because the signal chain is going this way, so right is the first effect that goes through the signal chain. And I keep pushing this and it doesn't go any farther. It keeps telling me that's 1. I go to 2, and now it's just this this through still here. So now we're going to push and hold until we get the menu, and now we want to add a reverb. Press this, and now we're into the hall reverb. So now we got delay on 1, second effect in the signal chain, which comes after delay, is now a reverb. So now we should get delay and reverb. So let's turn off the hall. So here's just the delay. There's the delay. So you can always turn these on and off to compare. There we added the delay. So let's turn the delay off and hear just the reverb. So let's say, oh, I don't know. Maybe we want to work on the reverb a little bit. So we go back to here without turning the delay back on, and now we can go in and edit. Say we want a bigger mix. And page 2, I'm going to turn the tail on. So now our reverb is a little bigger. Exit. Go back to number 1 and see the red light's off. I'm going to turn that back on. So now we got a longer delay, or a bigger mix of the delay and the stereo delay together. So let's run our mix through our little test through that. And there we've just done our first custom setting for this, and it kind of matches. It's all a matter of taste how much reverb you want. So stay tuned, and we'll have more tutorials later. Thank you very much.